Hello, good afternoon, good evening, good morning from wherever you may be participating in this webinar, and welcome on board to everybody. The International Day of Peace was established in 1981 by the UN General Assembly. 20 years later, in 2001, the General Assembly decided by unanimous vote that the 21st of September would be the UN International Day of Peace. It is a day that aims to reduce violence and to strengthen the ideals of peace around the world. On that day, the UN urges all nations and populations to respect a cessation of hostilities for 24 hours and to mark it through information and public awareness activities on peace issues. The UN also asks people to observe 1 minute of silence at noon to honor victims of war and violence. At the UN headquarters, the day begins with the Peace Bell ceremony. The Peace Bell was donated by the UN Association of Japan in June 1954 and is made of metal that includes coins contributed by people from 65 UN member countries. The bell is a symbol of hope for peace and is rung several times a year, including on International Peace Day. After the bell has been rung, the UN Secretary General delivers a message. This ritual is well known to Taiji Man and to Dr. Hong, who shares it regularly with distinguished guests who have the power to activate the leverages of peace at their disposal and who are encouraged to do it. Without peace, there can be no sustainable development, and there can be no peace without sustainable development. Without love, there can be no peace, and without peace, there can only be hatred, violence, and war. So many people around the world are currently suffering as a result of collective violence and killings based on religion and or ethnicity. Muslims against Christians in the Middle East and Nigeria, for example. Oromos and against Amaras in Ethiopia. Muslims against other Muslims in Pakistan, in Iraq, in Somalia, Buddhists against Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar, Hindus against Muslims in India, atheists against Muslims in China, just to name a few. A risk assessment of mass killings established by a British think tank quite recently has ranked the following countries for this year. On the top, Pakistan, followed by Yemen, Myanmar, Chad, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Afghanistan, and India. These are examples of countries which fail to establish peace inside their own borders and on their own territory. But there are also wars between neighboring countries, like the horrific aggression war waged by Russia on Ukraine, or the war between Azerbaijan and Nagorno-Karabakh, Armenia, populated by a majority of ethnic Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh. Unfortunately, we can predict that on this International Day of Peace, the war will not stop in Ukraine. The bell of peace will not ring, and there will be no ceasefire, even temporarily, in that part of Europe. Of course, The International Day of Peace isn't just about ending international conflicts. It is also about changing our behavior towards each other and towards our human environment. For example, we can try to bring peace to our personal lives just by saying sorry, to diffuse any negative feeling inadvertently caused by us to another person, and by making peace with someone that we know. Individual actions add up to great things when they are multiplied by millions of people all over the planet. And we can all contribute, all and each of us contribute to making the world a more peaceful place. If you want to spread love around you, start by loving yourself, because you cannot spread around you what you don't have within yourself. Similarly, if you want to spread peace, start by loving yourself, because you can't spread peace if you don't have peace within yourself. Dr. Hong's teachings are deeply imbued with love and non-violence, but also with social justice. This explains the attraction and even the fascination that the Taiji Man philosophy exerts on young people moved by a promising idealism. To act in accordance with one's conscience is to be at peace with oneself. For almost 27 years now, there has been no peace between the National Tax Bureau and Taiji Man, because there was and there is still no peace in the minds of those who have aggressed Taiji Man to destroy it. But there is peace in the minds of the dizzy, and this is important. Hate cannot drive out hate. Violence cannot drive out violence. Only love can do that. But a pure heart is needed. So go on working on it. Thank you. Thank you very much. And after this introduction, we will have a message of the General Secretary of the UN.
As we mark this International Day of Peace, people and our planet are in crisis. Conflicts driving record numbers of people from their homes, deadly fires, raging floods and soaring temperatures, poverty, inequalities and injustices, mistrust, division and prejudice. This year's theme reminds us that peace is not automatic. Peace is the result of action. Action to accelerate progress towards the Sustainable Development Goals and ensure that no one is left behind. Action to end the war on our planet and its natural gifts. Action to uphold and protect human rights and dignity of every person, especially as we celebrate the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Action to use the timeless tools of diplomacy, dialogue and collaboration to diffuse tensions and end conflict. And action for those millions of people living through the horrors of war. Peace is not only a noble vision for humanity, peace is a call to action. Let us commit to build, drive and sustain peace for all.
Thank you for this very strong message from Geneva. And now for the first session, we will have first speaker, Dr. Sarah Susana Pozos, bravo, professor at the University Saman of Jalisco in Guadalajara in Mexico. She will speak in Spanish and will be translated by Massimo Introvini.
Buenos días. Saludos desde México. Y gracias a Máximo por la traducción. En el marco del Día Internacional de la Paz, hago un breve análisis de cómo el derecho humano a la paz está lejos de ser un derecho humano garantizado para los integrantes del movimiento espiritual de Taiji Men. Su lucha por la justicia lleva más de 26 años y es urgente que sus demandas sean atendidas por el gobierno. La idea de la paz es el mayor anhelo de Naciones Unidas. Cuando el sistema de Naciones Unidas comenzó a gestarse tras la Segunda Guerra Mundial, 3 elementos fueron sustanciales a esa idea: la justicia, la paz misma y la declaración de una serie de principios que fueran universales para todos los países.
Thank you, and greetings from Mexico. In the framework of the International Day of Peace, I will propose a brief analysis of how the human right peace is far from being guaranteed to the members of Taiji Men spiritual movement. Their struggle for justice has been going on for more than 26 years, and it is urgent that their demands be addressed by the government. The idea of peace is the greatest longing of the United Nations. When the United Nations system began to take shape after World War II, 3 elements were essential to this idea: justice, peace itself, and the proclamation of a series of principles that will be universal for all countries. From those years to date, the idea of peace has evolved. It is now recognized and considered as a human right that should regulate international relations. Since human beings are the holders of this right, it should also be one of the first rights to be guaranteed to them, because its absence drastically violates all the other human rights.
De esos años a la fecha, la idea de la paz ha evolucionado hasta ser reconocida y considerada como un derecho humano, que no solo debe ser un valor que regule las relaciones internacionales, sino que al ser los seres humanos los titulares de ese derecho, debería de ser uno de los primeros en ser garantizado, porque la ausencia del mismo viola drásticamente el resto de los derechos humanos. La paz no debe entenderse solo como la ausencia de conflictos armados. Engloba o encierra el derecho a ser educado en paz y para la paz, el derecho a la objeción de conciencia, a las libertades de pensamiento, de religión y de convicciones. Y aquí agregaría el derecho a no ser perseguido por el Estado o por las autoridades.
This should not be understood only as the absence of armed conflict. It encompasses the right to be educated in and for peace, the right to conscientious objection and to freedom of thought, religion, and belief. And here, I will add the right not to be persecuted by the state or by the authorities.
Siguiendo este concepto más amplio, es necesario detenernos para analizar si al movimiento del Taiji Men, perseguido por el Estado, le ha sido violado de manera sistemática ese derecho humano a la paz, al movimiento y a sus integrantes.
Following this broader concept, it's necessary to analyze where the human right to peace of the Taiji Men movement, persecuted by the state, has been systematically violated towards the movement and its members.
Desde 1996, cuando el fiscal decidió acusar al Taiji Men de evasión fiscal y fraude, inició la persecución contra un movimiento, contra sus líderes y contra los simpatizantes del mismo movimiento, negándoles de manera sistemática y sin razón su derecho a vivir una vida libre de violencia. La violencia contra Taiji Men es equiparable a ausencia de paz en el sentido más amplio del concepto.
Since 1996, when the prosecutor decided to accuse Taiji Men of tax evasion and fraud, he began the persecution against the movement, against the leaders, and against its supporters. systematically and without reason, denying them the right to a life free of violence. Violence against Taiji men is tantamount to the absence of peace in the broader sense of the concept.
Las armas, herramientas y estrategias que usan las fiscalías en diversas partes del mundo, que van desde torcer el derecho, presionar testigos, comprar testigos, ocultar información o evidencia exculpatoria, entre otras, son tan parecidas a otros casos de alto impacto en el mundo que nos resulta imprescindible advertir estas coincidencias para el análisis y condenarlas para la causa que nos ocupa. Estas acciones de las fiscalías, violan todos los derechos fundamentales de los seres humanos, quienes han encontrado en las minorías religiosas a los culpables de los más atroces delitos, aunque sean inocentes de todos los cargos o acusación. Está claro que es más fácil culpar a las minorías de estos que nunca han realizado que perseguir a las redes de poder y corrupción que hay en sus países.
The weapons, tools, and strategies used by prosecutors in various parts of the world are similar, ranging from twisting the law, pressuring witnesses, buying witnesses, and hiding information or exculpatory evidence. They are so similar to other high-impact cases in the world that it is essential to note these coincidences between brackets for the analysis and condemn them in the Taiji men case. These actions of prosecutors who have found religious minorities guilty of the most heinous crimes, even if they are innocent of any charge or accusation, violate all the fundamental rights of human beings. It is clear that it's easier for prosecutors to blame minorities for acts they have never committed than to prosecute the networks of power and corruption that plague their countries.
El caso Taiji Men es un dramático caso de persecución institucional, de violencia de Estado contra un movimiento espiritual. En sus más de 26 años de persecución e injusticia, sus líderes han demostrado una y otra vez su inocencia. Los casos penales los han ganado, pero el mismo Estado se niega a cerrar sus consecuencias fiscales y a vindicar el nombre del movimiento.
The Taiji men case is a dramatic case of institutional persecution and of state violence against a spiritual movement. In its more than 26 years of persecution and injustice, its leaders have demonstrated time and again their innocence. They have won the criminal case, but the state itself refuses to solve its tax consequences and to vindicate the name of the movement.
Cuando en 1996 dio inicio la transición democrática en Taiwán, los grupos religiosos que se opusieron a ser utilizados por el poder político y que incluso se opusieron a él fueron perseguidos. Entre estos grupos estaba Taiji Men. Entonces se inició la persecución contra ellos. Sus líderes fueron detenidos y encarcelados y dio inicio un proceso judicial. Años después, los acusados de Taiji Men recibieron incluso una indemnización nacional por el injusto encarcelamiento anterior.
In 1996, when the democratic transition was beginning in Taiwan, religious groups that opposed being used by the political power and resisted the powers that be were persecuted. Among these groups was Taiji Men. Then the persecution against them began, their leaders were arrested and jailed, and a judicial persecution was started. Years later, the Taiji Men defendants even received national compensation for the earlier unjust imprisonment.
¿Cómo podemos entonces pensar que los discípulos del movimiento tengan garantizado el derecho a la paz si continúan siendo perseguidos? ¿Cómo podemos aspirar a la paz si flagrante y constantemente los estados, los fiscales y las autoridades de gobierno son los primeros en violentar ese derecho? ¿Cómo podemos aspirar al ideal máximo del ser humano, que es vivir en paz, si constantemente es violentado el movimiento Taiji-Men? Es tiempo de exigir una solución política que garantice la paz para el Taiji-Men. Muchas gracias.
How can we say that the disciples of the movement are guaranteed the right to peace if they continue to be persecuted? How can we aspire to peace if blatantly and constantly states, prosecutors, and government authorities are the first to violate that right? How can we aspire to the ultimate human ideal of living in peace if the Taiji-Men movement is constantly being harassed? It is time to demand a political solution that guarantees peace for Taiji-Men. Thank you.
And thank you, Sarah Susana Pozos Bravo, for elaborating on the topic of violence against Taiji-Men, in particular the institutional persecution against that movement, along with state violence. And now we will listen to Attila Miklovic, a PhD candidate from the University of Pécs in Hungary. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Willy, and thank you very much for inviting me, and greetings for everybody from Hungary. So it's great that I got this opportunity to present my paper, which follows the ideas of Professor Pozos. Unfortunately, the talk is not about peace, but it is delivered with the hope of peace. So, my paper, my talk today is about the weaponizing taxes against freedom of religion or belief, and it shows a comparison between Hungary and Taiwan, because in both countries, tax bureaucrats try to classify spiritual activities as tuition or other taxable services to harass certain movements. So using fiscal authorities or charges against the enemies of power is not unknown phenomenon in human history, even in cases of religious leaders. Just by way of example, there was the internationally widely covered case of the Hungarian Archbishop Joseph Mindszenty shortly after the Second World War. The Roman Catholic Archbishop of Hungary, who was raising concerns regarding the emerging communist regime in Hungary, was arrested on 26 December 1948, just after Christmas, for primarily conspiring against the state, but at the same time also with the false charges of embezzling funds and engaging in black marketeering with foreign currency. So although the modern democracies, in the modern democracies, this type of interrogation, which I mean torturing, which was used in the case of Mindszenty, is not typical anymore, but the accusation of tax fraud and tax avoidance, or budgetary fraud, as it is called in today's Hungarian criminal code, is obviously recognizable in cases where there seems to be an ideological or political collision between the political powers running the state and the unprivileged religious communities. Even in societies which are considered as top performance as far as freedom of thought is concerned, such as Taiwan, there are instances of using the tax card as a weapon to target religious communities. The case of Taiji-Men community is a blatant example of that. The case is widely discussed in international academic literature of religious studies and also human rights forums, so I will not go deep into the analysis of it, But there is one aspect I found particularly interesting and parallel to one of the ongoing cases in Hungary. It is the endeavor of the state or some bureaucrats in particular, through the state agency, namely the Taxation Bureau, the National Taxation Bureau, to recategorize income types of religious and spiritual communities by an attempt to reclassify their spiritual activities or customs. In the Taijimen case, the DZ, the Taijimen disciples, gifted their leader, the Shifu, Dr. Hong Tao-tse, with the so-called red envelopes, which are a monetary form of gratitude or respect towards him. The tradition of red envelopes in Chinese culture dates back to hundreds, or some say thousands of years. The peculiarity of this case was that the Taiwanese National Taxation Bureau and the prosecutor of the case tried to categorize these red envelopes as a sort of tuition fee, similar to fees paid to a cram school, despite that the Ministry of Education itself explained that Taijimen does not classify as a cram school. So eventually, after 11 years of legal battle, in 2007, the Supreme Court of Taiwan confirmed that the red envelopes included non-taxable gifts under the Income Tax Act of Taiwan. However, the ramifications of the case are still ongoing, including a seemingly unnecessary confiscation of highly valuable Taijimen land and also real estate property. A parallel peculiarity is visible in the case of the Church of Scientology in Hungary. Like the 1996 crackdown on the Taijimen, an all-out dawn raid happened on 18 and 19 October 2017 at all Hungarian Scientology churches and missions. The accusation, which is now reduced to the central organization of the church and four of the large missions. The accusation is that the named suspects in the church ranks falsely claimed that the core practices of Scientology are religious activities, and they did that in order to avoid paying value-added tax. And by that, they created an illegal income surplus at the church. But these services in Scientology, namely auditing, which is a form of spiritual counseling, and training, which is the education of auditing practitioners, are considered, in the words of American scholar Donald Westbrook, part of the step-by-step esoteric states of awareness and ability. And this is end of quote from Westbrook. And thus, this is part of a ritual, as also the Italian scholar Aldo Natale Terrin confirmed in his book. The question whether VAT should be added to the services may be disputed in the context of the Hungarian VAT Act, but that would definitely not be a tax fraud, because in order to make it a criminal act, it has to include the deliberate criminal intent of knowingly avoiding tax payment. And this is where the tax bureaucrats raise the argument that the practices of the disciples of Scientology are falsely claimed as religious. So obviously the instant question emerges, which is an eternal philosophical question: who has the right or the authority to override the auto-definition of a religious community? And of course, this would be a matter of a longer discussion, but while the case of the Church of Scientology is kept in the criminal realm of Hungarian law, coincidentally, the church may not apply for recognition as a higher class religious organization per the Hungarian Church Act, which contains a statute debarring the application for organization with an ongoing criminal procedure. So in conclusion, both in the cases of Scientology in Hungary and Taijimen in Taiwan, the tax laws were weaponized in order to discriminate against the religious and spiritual minorities, and this violates internationally recognized freedom of religion or belief principles. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Attila, for your demonstration of the weaponization of the tax laws by people who are hostile to Taiji Men, and the way they fabricated the case, which was a non-fair trial, in fact, although they managed to win that case at the Supreme Court in 2007. There are always ammunitions left somewhere that can be used by enemies to really make your life a hell, as it has been the case for years and years. And now I will give the floor to Marco Respinti, director in charge of Bitter Winter magazine. He will introduce the second session with the Dizzy.
Thank you, Willie. Thank you, all of you, for being here today to discuss an important topic. As we know, Taiji Men and the Taiji Men case on such an important day of recognition by the UN, which is the International Day of Peace, of course. And thank you, everyone who's listening and watching us from different sides of the world. As scholars just mentioned, peace, it's a very relevant aspect of socialized, social human life. It's not just an individual right, but it addresses the topic of course, how and why we do live together. And I really appreciate, I already myself touched the topic in previous webinars and papers. I'm very careful always, as it has just been done, to distinguish between peace and the mere absence of war. It has been said, and I want to repeat it, it's so important. And let me just mention the case that this morning on a national journal in Italy, I wrote an article on the sad and daring situation of Nagorno-Karabakh in the center of Europe. And you know there is a war going on since years, and in recent days that war had again another episode, another bloody episode. And yesterday it was a ceasefire, so no war. The guns are silent. But as a matter of fact, as I report on the journals, on an Italian journal today, yesterday when the ceasefire was agreed, a car driving with some children on board just lost his road. The car crumbled. The children tried to reach a wood. They were escaping, and they were killed by shooting in the back from the aggressors. So it was the ceasefire. It was called peace in the sense of absence of war, the war with the major W, with the capital W, but it was no peace at all. And it is no peace at all. And how many situations in the world every single day, even in this moment, leave an absence of war, which is not peace. So thank you all the scholars and Dizzy, which I will introduce, for bringing attention on peace as real peace. And with no further ado, I will introduce Dizzy, as we usually do in our webinars, with the second part of our talks. But just after launching a video that we will see together, and the video has a very important title. We will see the title is No More Silence. Thank you. And it's the turn of duty now, and it's my pleasure to introduce one and all of them, starting with Ms. Jessica Ho. She's a Dizzy and a university student. The floor is yours.
Okay, hello everyone, I'm Jessica. I'm a senior student majoring in finance and also a disciple of Taijimen. I grew up in Taijimen since I was a child, and it is like my second home. There are many brothers and sisters who have watched me grow up, and I have many good friends with whom I have played and grown together since childhood. I remember when I was young, many people had the impression that I was very shy and timid. Every time I saw a stranger, I would hide behind my mother's back. At that time, I probably never thought that when I grew up, I would change so much that I can talk to you here about my understanding of love and peace. The main reason why I can make such a big change is Taijimen. When I first became a disciple and entered Taijimen, I remember my Shifu taught me to be brave. I have always kept that advice in my heart. When faced with difficulties, I will use those words to encourage myself. In Taijimen, we not only take care of our physical and mental well-being through Qigong, but also dedicate ourselves to promoting a culture of love, peace, and conscience. Under the guidance of our Shifu, as disciple, we have many opportunities to push our own boundaries. Like 8 years ago today, when I was only 13 years old, I served as a speaker in the forum for the first time. On this special day today, I'm once again sharing my views on love and peace. I remember being the youngest speaker in the forum at that time, and that experience allowed me to discover my potential and realize that when we open our hearts and we're willing to accept challenges, we could naturally become more courageous. In August of this year, I was fortunate to travel to Chicago with my Shifu and the Love of the World Cultural Goodwill Group to participate in the 130th anniversary of the Parliament of the World's Religions. My mission this time was cultural performance, and it was my first time performing the Golden Phoenix and participating in the Grand Faith Parade. This occasion was very special because it is rare for Taijimen to hold a prayer ceremony aboard. The ceremony included the presence of a divine dragon and the golden phoenix. The divine dragon symbolized compassion, bravery, and true wisdom, while the golden phoenix represents courage, resilience, and brightness. Through our performance, we hope to bring more positive energy to the world. I remember during the practice and preparation for the performance, I faced quite a few setbacks initially because I didn't have a lot of basic skills. There were many changes and challenges throughout the process, and I wonder if I was capable of completing this task. However, every time I thought about the compassion and bravery of the phoenix, those self-doubts quickly dissipated. I told myself that I needed to learn from the phoenix and believe in myself, as well as in my brothers and sisters, that we could do it together. In the end, we successfully completed the task. Moreover, during the actual performance, I had a very special feeling. At that moment, I felt incredibly light while performing, and my whole body was filled with energy. It was as if the dragon and the phoenix were truly present at the venue. I was deeply touched at that moment and feel grateful for the opportunity to participate in the prayer ceremonies performance in Chicago. This journey not only made me braver and wiser, but also allowed me to experience the profound culture of Taijimen deeply. Thanks to Taijimen, I'm no longer a shy girl who used to hide behind my mother. Through repeated opportunity for physical, mental, and spiritual breakthroughs and refinement, I found a braver version of myself. I have applied these valuable skills in my life, allowing me to manage my studies, family, and relationships smoothly and satisfactorily. Speaking of the year's Parliament of the World's Religion held in Chicago, the theme of the conference was A Call to Conscience, Defending Freedom and Human Rights. This is similar to our Shifu's long-term promotion of the movement of the era of conscience. During my participation in the conference as part of the Love of the World Cultural Goodwill Group, I saw that different religious groups, whether for the well-being of mind, body, and spirit, or for the preservation of the Earth's environment, were all using various means to express their love for the world. For me, Taijimen is a place filled with love and personal growth as well. It has taught me that at this age, the most important things in life are not wealth and fame, but the ability to practice conscience and distinguish right from wrong. Our Shifu has led disciples to visit 101 countries at their own expense to promote Taiji and conscience culture. However, despite being a benevolent organization, Taijimen has faced years of persecution by the judiciary and tax authorities. Even though Taijimen was declared innocent with no tax liabilities and no violation of tax law by the judiciary in 2007, and it has won 18 times in administrative remedies, proving that Taijimen is not a cram school, but an ancient martial arts and self-cultivation menpai. The tax authority continued to wrongly impose taxes on Taijimen. They even unlawfully auctioned our practice sites in 2020 and illegally nationalized them. The Taijimen case has been ongoing since before I was born. And now, as I'm about to graduate from the university, it is disheartening to see that this vast injustice has not yet received the justice it deserves. These 27 years have indeed been long and painful. Many experts and scholars believe that the Taijimen case is a reflection of flaws in Taiwan's tax and judicial systems. Therefore, I would like to earnestly appeal to the Taiwanese government to address the Taijimen case and the shortcomings in Taiwan's tax and judicial systems. Because the Taijimen case is not an isolated case. Only by rectifying the injustice can Taiwan move forward a brighter future, and the people can truly live and work in peace and prosperity on this land. Finally, as my Shifu has said, when everyone has a conscience, the world will be at peace. When everyone finds happiness, every family will be blessed. It is because of our unwavering commitment to love, peace, and justice that we do not easily compromise. It is also because we still have hope for this world that we continue to strive to do the right thing, waiting for justice to prevail. On this International Day of Peace, may everyone uphold their conscience and truly implement love and peace in their lives. As a graduating finance student, I also aspire to carry my conscience with me as I enter the workplace in the future. I will use the courage and wisdom I have learned in Taijimen to do my best to contribute to make this world a more peaceful and beautiful place. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ho, of all the good things that you shared with us and your personal experience within Taijimen, within the Taijimen movement. And out of many, I just want to pick up a sentence from your speech where you said, during my participation in the conference as part of the Love of the World Cultural Goodwill Group, I saw that different religious groups, whether for the well-being of mind, body, and spirit, or for the preservation of the Earth's environment, were all using various means to express their love for the world. This is very important. I think that this is directly tied to our topic today, peace, because if we don't love the world we are in, we cannot reach peace. We need to love the world we're in, to love the world as it is made, to love the persons that inhabit it in order to grant peace. And I think that, as you said, many religious groups, through different religious or spiritual ways, groups and religions, through different ways, try to reach that goal. And this is an holistic perspective that is very important. People, environment, and all. I'm no pantheist, but I strongly believe that the holistic vision has a very important meaning, and we human beings need to have conscience of that if we want to achieve peace. Thank you. So it's now time for the second of our testimonies by Mr. Patrick Lee, Lieutenant Colonel Research Instructor and Taijin Peace. Mr. Lee, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. My name is Patrick. On May 22, 2011, I became a disciple of Taiji Men. Under the guidance of Dr. Hong Daozi, the head of Taiji Men Qigong Academy. Before I started, I was an officer who devoted myself to service the country and became a strict soldier, but I also made my heart difficult to get close to, and my subordinates would be afraid when they saw me. When I became a member and understood that Sifu had been leader all his disciples to spread love and peace all over the world, my heart guided softness in this environment, full of love and peace. And I also applied the Gong Fu taught by Sifu to my heart in my life. My change has also made my working environment better. For example, when I encounter setbacks, I will use the way of thinking to bring a positive atmosphere to my colleague and eventually change the bad atmosphere in the office so that everyone can work in the pleasant and harmonious atmosphere. And the colleague around me also feel that I am a bearer of love of the office, bringing positive changes to everyone, which is the Gong Fu that Sifu told me. In 1996, Taiji Men Qigong Academy unfortunately suffered legal and tax persecution, and it has been 27 years since the supervision young investigate the prosecutor Hou Kuanren investigation of the Taiji Men case in 2002. There were 8 major violations, including violation of investigation not be public, violating society case handle, violating the prosecution of ignorance, and the forced publication of Records Act. The Ministry of the Justice was asked to strictly investigate and punish Hou Kuanren violations. But Hou Kuanren was not punished according to law, but also served as the deputy director of the ICAC in 2018, and then promoted to the director of the Institute of Forensic Medicine in 2022, and was promoted to the rank of office continuously, so that the persecution and writing the wrestling, gobbling, and handing cats by eye. And now, the director of the Foresting Research Institute of the Ministry of Justice. And the scientific handling of cats has become a joke in Taiwan officialdom. The NTB letter correctly 5 of the 6 years of vacation test cats from 1991 to 1996 as a result of the Taijimen human rights persecution case. But after the 1992 tax bills were with the same future evidence, and in 2020, the administrative execution bill illegitimate and forcibly audience of the reserved land of the Taijimen ashamed and nationalized it. The unjust and full case of the Taijimen was illegally investigated by Hou Kuanren, who framed Taijimen with full execution just as a historical northern Song dynasty traitor Qin Kuai framed the lawyer and prosecutor Yue Fei general, which is harness. Also, the NTB respectability and twice used illegal measure to ask Sifu to submit, accept the illegal tax bill and pay a little bit. However, Sifu warned his discipline that since the knew about the NTB's illegal behavior, we should guide the NTB to do the right thing so as not to hurt more people. In recent years, the world has been troubled, and in addition to natural disasters such as earthquake, drought, and floods, war caused by human greed and have become more frequently. Also, the United Nations decided on November 20, 1980, to designate the third Tuesday of September as the International Day of Peace, hoping that the national of the world will strengthen the ideas of peace. Just as Winston Churchill once said that the history of mankind is the history of war. The freedom and the peace opponent from the World War II. Under the influence of the 5 poisons of greed, hate, arrogance, arrogance, and doubt. And the world began to move toward a wrong and destructive war. Bring distress and misfortune to the world. I currently teach world history, and I am very sensitive to the change in the world today. I have experienced from world history that war doesn't bring happy day to the world, but endless sadness, happiness, and death. Because of this, I learned at Taijimen that a person's good life is not really good, and that the world must know the belief that the world is bright and beautiful in order to lead the world toward the right path together. Sip told us the prayer that love and peace in the world because only when everyone is good can we unite our heart, maintain good positive energy, and practice together in a hand-on way. Sifu has led his disciples to visit more than 300 cities in 101 countries around the world. Principles in more than 3,000 cultural institutions promoted love and peace and human rights education, promoted love and peace culture, and launched the era of the conscience movement, which was responded to by 20 countries. These activities let us know that although the road ahead is difficult, the full of obscure, as long as we take steps and activity do good, we can actually bring light to world peace. Finally, I feel honored as the principal of the Taiji Man because the Gongfu told us to by Sifu is selfless guidance us to goodness and guide the world to the road of peace. I'm proud of Taiji Man because all disciples follow Sifu's footsteps until the good heart of everyone the fight together for the love and the peace of the world. Therefore, I also pray that the world will avoid war as soon as possible and share the good we have gained to the Taiji Man with the world, hoping that everyone can have the 5 treasures of healthy, worthy, wisdom, joy, and happiness like us. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I really appreciate when you quoted Sir Winston Churchill saying, as Churchill said, that history of mankind is a history of war. We're calling for peace, we desire peace, we hope for peace, we are discussing peace today, and our history as human beings, as you say, that Winston Churchill said, as a matter of fact, not out of some wacko ideas, is that the history of mankind is a history of war. And a few sentences later, you said that human beings are the only species that can kill each other out of desire. This is so true and so sad. But I think this brings responsibility in. Even if human beings are the only species that can kill each other out of desire, human beings are also the only species that can realize that and can change that. There's no one else on Earth that can do that. And so we are human beings. We belong to that species that can kill each other out of desire, but we are here to change the world. I'm not no utopian at all, but we need to change the world. This is what we're doing. Thank you for your contribution. Our next testimony is Miss Erica Chuang, account manager, and Taiji Man DZ as well. Ms. Chuang, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marco. Hi, everyone. I am Erica, currently working as account manager in a global company. Today is International Day of Peace, a day when the United Nations encourage countries to cease hostilities and practice non-violation, allowing all the global citizens to enjoy equal happiness. Furthermore, due to the issues such as climate changes, social equity, and also income inequalities, the United Nations declared the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal, SDG, in 2015, guiding the world's efforts towards sustainability making sustainable development the cornerstone of the peace. In recent years, owing to the global awareness of sustainability, enhancing ESG performance, environment, social, and governance has become a critical concern for modern business. The concrete realization of a sustainable development involves achieving environmental justice, social equity, and economic prosperity. To effectively accomplish those three objectives while ensuring profit growth, companies need to strategize, incorporate environmental, social, and also governance ESG performance as an integral part of their competitiveness and as an important growth opportunity. The latest chance is to establishment of a global ESG comprehensive rating and certification systems, showing that each factor in environmental, social, and corporate governance will impact the future growth of a company, and all of these factors are essential. The global company I'm working at has adopted ESG as an important indicator of annual corporate performance. My clients also has requested cooperate on ESG related projects in hope that in addition to the revenue and also profitability in supply chain management, there will be a better cycle for the world peace and sustainable development. People all over the world are experiencing the equity that comes with peace on this International Day of Peace. However, it's also up to each of us to cooperate in order to eradicate all forms of discrimination and advance the world. Each of us has a responsibility to advance peace, because we are all global citizens, to build on an orderly society where everyone may experience enjoyment on equal basis. Each of us should start by working together. In September 2001, my Shifu, Dr. Hong Daozi, brought his deeds to New York for the 54th annual UN DPI NGO conference. They witnessed the 9/11 terrorist attack. My Shifu, his wife, and Dizi decided to stay in New York on other panic and try to evacuate. They invite the head of the UN and NGO to ring the bell for blessing, to soothe the world panic and also strike might. On September 21, 2017, my Shifu once again brought his deeds, including me, to New York City for the Love and Peace bell ringing ceremony, inviting world leaders to take part of ringing the Love and Peace bell, pledging to uphold world peace and wishing the people all over the world will no longer have to live in the fear and terror. On the bell ringing ceremony was held close to the 16th anniversary of 9/11 terrorist attacks. I was walking through the city. I observed that the tension in New York was still high 16 years after that attack, with police fancy on every street leading to the UN, stopping and questioning everyone who passed by. Additionally, there was news of the possible bomber. That day we landed in New York. We could hear the police cars patrolling that areas. Growing up in a safety country like Taiwan, I truly felt that the moment that a terrorist attack was imminent, ambassador of the UN and also representative of other nations also stressed that the significance of the International Day of Peace during our invitations. One positive thinking produced positive result. Evil thought lead to catastrophe. A single choice made in a pivotal time can decide the course of the entire global. the Federation of War, Peace, and Love, which now has members from 137 nations, was founded in 2000 by Dr. Hong Daozi in California, USA, with the global advancing world peace through the organization of the World Leaders Summit of Love and Peace. The ceremony of ringing the bell of the world peace and love and cultural exchanges. Today's Russian-Ukrainian conflict still has impact on the entire world, underscoring the value of the peace. Most of the people may wonder, why does Taijimen promoting love and peace? Shifu explained to us that the character Wu is a combination of the character 止, stop, and ge, word. The ancients were highly acknowledgeable that when it comes to the word invention, the character of the Wu is kind of the spiritual of martial art, which means to stop a word. Its deeply significant is that in order for the love to follow, one must purge their heart of any evil. It means stopping evil and promoting goodness. Taijimen is a menpai of the Qigong, martial art, self-cultivation. It has inherited a way of life, yin-yang philosophy. Qi is a foundation of the Taijimen Qigong. The heart is its source. It's an essential approach to living and recognition life and knowledges. In my opinion, Taijimen Qigong is a natural form of Kung Fu and programmatic Kung Fu in order to achieve inner peace and achieve harmony of others. I am committed to being good, quitting being bad, speaking positively, performing more good deeds. However, for 27 years, Taijimen has been fighting for justice and conscience. It's hard to imagine that a menpai such as pure moral as Taijimen was still having tax issues. Despite the Superior Court ruling that Taijimen is absolutely innocent of any wrongdoing and owe no taxes, we are nevertheless troubled by unreasonable and illegal, never-ending tax bill. On this difficult role of the vindications, we fight for the justice and righteousness that belong to us. I hope that the government's officers will awaken their conscience and clear the name of Taijimen, Shifu, and Dizi according to the Lord. The Taijimen case is a typical one worldwide. It's an instance of the violation of human rights. The World Taxpayer Association, WTA, held the 18th World Taxpayer Conference in Prague, Czech Republic, on May 23 and 24 this year, with nearly 60 top experts from tax reform organizations in more than 20 countries. They explored the tax issue, reform proposal with real cases. The Tax and Legal Reform League, a Taiwan-based NGO, also shared its achievement in recent years in promoting the protection of the taxpayer right and the promotion of the fair and justice tax systems, as well as in reporting on the problem of unfair, unlawful tax bill that has been remained never ending in Taiwan. In cases unlawful taxes that has pursued human right, prosecute the human right. Through the sharing of international tax prosecution cases in the conference, they hope to urge the Taiwan government to emphasize legal and tax reform and to return the family's justice to Taijimen. On this International Day of the Peace, let us pray for the peace of the mind and body for all, for the corporate sustainability, for the peaceful coexistence between nations, for the fairness, justice everywhere. May there will be no more just injustice and sorrow in the world. Thank you all.
Thank you. I really appreciate when you say that on the International Day of Peace, people around the world can feel the equality that peace brings. And however, each one of us should work together to eliminate all discrimination in the world and prevent war. This is right what I tried to address, commenting the previous Mr. Klee, when I said that we need to change the world, and we, even if this sounds so grand, we can do it. And we can do it through peace, real peace, not only absence of war, and peace will come among human beings then when, I want to use your word, when they realize that they are equal, when they will stop saying, you know, I am better than you, you are minor than me, and some races, some groups, some religions, some people that we may not like, and that is, I mean, that happens, but human beings need to stop saying, so you're inferior and you have less rights. When that day will come, peace will move a step toward the right direction. I thank you for this reflection very much. Our next testimony comes from Mr. Jerry Tsang, vaccine researcher and Tajiman Dizi. Mr. Tsang, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jerry. I had honor to become the disciple of Dr. Hong Daozi, the Grandmaster of Taijimen, on March 23, 2014. Before joining Taijimen, I was dealing with the pressure of graduate school and suffer from the chronic pains because of bad posture. After entering Taijimen, I gradually learned how to love myself and the art of changing my mindset. Loving myself serves as motivation, and changing my mindset is the method to help me deal with life pressures. Now I adjust my mood and organize my thought through meditation. And I have relieved my pain through practicing Qigong. I used to be less concerned about public affairs, but now I have become more engaged in social issues. When I witness social issues, I examine them in greater depth and breadth. I also encourage others to participate in the democratic issue and care about the country's development. This transformation in myself is because of my Sifu has always taught us to distinguish right from wrong, truth from falsehood, and to use a patriotic heart to rectify injustice. On July 13, 2007, three court ruling that confirmed our innocence and tax conformity allow the national judiciary to already clear Taijimen of all accusations. Additionally, we were compensated for the unfair prosecutions. However, the Taijimen test case has been ongoing for 27 years, and it is still unresolved. In recent years, I have learned through participated in several tax-related forums and street demonstrations that the Taijimen case is not an isolated event, but rather than a landmark case, acknowledged by professionals and scholars, both domestically and globally. From the perspective of national development, our current effort aim to highlight the issues within the tax system through our case, and urge the government to promote genuine reform in legal and tax systems. I believe this is also an opportunity for deeds like us, given to us by our Sifu, to improve ourselves via action. Furthermore, as Taijimen deeds, we have experienced the persecution and the injustice firsthand, and we understand the hardship behind it. For ourselves, others, and the future generation, it is an undeniable duty to stand up and defend tax justice. In addition, my Shifu established the life attitude of learning through doing to us, helping us to improve ourselves via practical experiments and subsequent reflection. This is a positive and proactive approach to life, and it also serves as a substantial act. This is consistent with the spirit of Standard Operating Procedure (SOP) that I currently use in my work. I am currently involved in the development of COVID-19 and influenza vaccines, and I need to handle the COVID-19 and influenza virus to minimize unexpected incidents. It is essential to establish SOP to enhance the safety of the operator. SOP can help reduce the occurrence of accidents, but they do not entirely eliminate the possibility. These SOP are developed based on the lesson learned from previous mistakes, aiming to prevent repetitive mistakes that could result in harm to the nation and its system. Whenever an accident occurs, a thorough review is conducted, and the SOP are updated, resulting in a continuous improvement process to prevent the recurrence of errors. Similarly, in vaccine development, we prioritize the effectiveness and the safety of vaccine. Therefore, From the vaccine development process to clinical trial, numerous steps must adhere to international standards. To stay up with global human rights norms, I also think that the tax system needs to be modernized. Today is International Day of Peace. Here, I want to particularly urge the Taiwanese government and the National Taxation Bureau to address the Taijimen case seriously. They should stop violating people's rights related to property rights, the right to life, cultural rights, and the freedom of belief. And they should vigorously correct prior administrative actions. This reform should include the elimination of erroneous tax incentive, bonus, and the bonus scheme that lack legal foundation, as well as a thorough examination of how tax authority and administrative enforcement officer comply to the rule of law. Finally, I want to emphasize the peace exists not only in our individual lives, but also between nations and between human and nature. When dealing with new infections, the one world, one health concept is critical for preventing pandemic from spreading. It entails interdisciplinary and the cross-border collaboration and communication on a wide range of human, animal, and environmental health issues. This concept is not only applicable to epidemic prevention, but is also a vital component of ensuring global peace. Only when we protect and respect the health of all living beings can we establish a more harmonious and stable world. My Shifu, Dr. Hong Daozi, has said that the environmental pollution and the ecological crisis faced by the Earth and humanity are becoming increasingly severe. Environmental quality is rapidly deteriorating, and new environmental issues are consistently emerging. This highlights the distinction between awareness and action. He emphasized that conscience and honesty are the key to sustainable development. In the other world, the combination of human conscience and actions is required for sustainable development. Therefore, for over 2 decades, our Shifu has led us to visit 5 continents, spreading and promoting the idea of conscience, love, and peace. Along the way, we have forged countless like-minded friendships, collective advancing a global peace movement. Our goal is to create a greener, fair, more just, and a secure future for all. And we hope that this positive energy for a better world can continue to spread like the butterfly effect. That's all my talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tseng. I really appreciate one of your last sentences when you actually pleaded for stopping this injustice toward Taiji men. This is very strong and very important. But I really, out of the many things you said in your talk, I really appreciated many things that I appreciated, but I appreciated particularly when you said that Shifu established a life attitude of learning through doing and helping you and us and all of us to improve ourselves via practical experience and subsequent reflection. This goes directly again into the topic of today, which is peace. We can elaborate on peace, we can think of peace, we can reflect on this concept on a philosophical level and other, but we need to start bringing peace. We need to start living peace even before everything is clear in our mind, because otherwise peace will never come. We need to live it and then reflect upon living it. So it's a practical experience will teach us, as you mentioned, taken from Shifu, will teach us the real meaning of peace, which is not a theoretical idea, but a very practical way of living the good life. So thank you so much for this. And before listening to the last but not the least of our testimony today, let me bring your attention back to our video, because the video I launched at the beginning was not what it was supposed to be, Silence No More. It was a beautiful display of cultural performances, but we now really want to see the Silence No More video, and we will see it now before going to the last of our testimonies today.
What a fun situational game.
No More Silence, the most difficult human rights mystery, is a special human rights exhibition co-organized by the Taiwan Financial and Criminal Law Research Association and the Tax Legal Reform League. On September 15, 16, and 17, an immersive experience special exhibition was launched at Hall 7A of Huashan 1914 Creative Park, which attracted the attention of many people. Alas, isn't the 7th month of the lunar calendar over? But there is still hell in the world. People are sitting at home, but disasters fall from the sky. The postman delivers a wrong tax bill, starting a cycle of endless suffering for tax victim.
Over the past few years, many tax victims come forward to tell us their stories, including how they somehow received a tax bill that was not theirs. How did they go for administrative relief? How did they fail? How did it waste their lives, time, and property?
Administrative relief is a long road, just like playing Monopoly. The only difference is that no matter whether you win or lose the lawsuit, you will end up back to the starting point. When I received the tax bill, I immediately took care of everything I needed to do, but he still continued to punish me, and the punishment was progressive. I was told you can appeal. This was a very unreasonable thing. As a result, I was fined 20,000 as before when I appealed. I still resent this incident.
What I find more shocking is that the rule of law in Taiwan's National Taxation Bureau is operating like this. Maybe we will pay more attention to this issue in the future. I would like to know how this issue will be fermented in the future. How to improve.
There is love and justice in execution, but in fact, there are many honest and kind-hearted taxpayers who have been persecuted for their entire lives by wrong tax bills. They have lost their families, separated their wives and children, and restricted their personal freedom. These are still lucky. Many unfortunate victims were driven to a dead end, leaving only bones and bones behind. Can't the tax collector's bonus be cancelled? Shouldn't the government amend the law system? That's ridiculous. I just saw, wow, what's going on? Isn't Taiwan very democratic? Why hasn't it been revised? What a nonsense. Please be sure to revise the tax collector bonus system. Known as 228 incident in the history of law and taxation, the case of human rights persecution of Taiji men shocked the whole country.
Therefore, this appeal also hopes that all wrongful convictions should not be subject to a time limit. Instead, they should be clarified immediately, justice should be implemented, error correction mechanisms should be established, the truth should be made public, and the perpetrators should be held accountable. This is a heartfelt appeal aimed at preventing further harm to victims based on the 27-year Taiji men case.
The event has attracted more than 5,000 people so far, and people are very enthusiastic about it. I am very happy. Through this exhibition, everyone can directly witness and understand the impact on the soul and be aware of the importance of these issues. These are not just games. The numbers involved are not merely abstract figures. They represent real cases and lives affected by forced execution. The news on the walls depicts stories of true. It is crucial to recognize the weight behind these numbers and the significance of this exhibition. We hope that everyone can deeply appreciate and comprehend this experience. Tell your friends, relatives, and friends. It is true, all still happening in Taiwan. We must pay attention on it and supervise the government. We hope our country will get better and better. Then this requires us to work hard together.
The 3-day exhibition propels Taiwan's human rights forward. Whether victims or bystanders, everyone must courageously speak up and break the silence to truly promote reform. Reporter for Taipei.
As I announced, this video is really important to watch. So thank you for following it with us. And we now go to our, as I said, last but not the least, DZ for today, who is Miss Stacy Su, freelance writer, and of course, Taiji Mendizi. The floor is yours.
Hello, my name is Daisy. I am a Taiji Mendizi, and also a freelance writer. Having observed the legal and tax system in Taiwan for a long time, I have found that the injustice of the judiciary and the tax system has gradually caused mistrust and disharmony between the government and the society of Taiwan, resulting in the inability to be united and other hidden problems that threaten peace and stability. Justice is supposed to be the last line of defense in maintaining social justice, but as the judiciary has been degraded into a tool for eliminating dissent, the people of Taiwan's trust in the judiciary has continued to diminish. 2021 Taiwan Public Satisfaction with the Administration of Justice and the Prevention of Crime survey shows that as many as 67% of the Taiwanese people do not trust that judges can adjudicate cases in a fair and impartial manner. For example, in March 2022, Mr. Chang Ching, a lawyer who worked on the Tsai Ing-wen presidential essay case, was charged with obstruction of secrecy by the Taitung District Prosecutor's Office, which commanded the Criminal Police Brigade to search Chang Ching's law firm and seize his computer. This not only violated the principle of proportionality, but also affected the rights and interests of the litigants handled by Mr. Chang Ching, and was strongly criticized by the legal profession. One of the most serious cases is the political purge of religious crackdown in 1996, which allowed prosecutor Ho Kwan-jen to create a false case to prosecute a spiritual group, Taiji men, which was not guilty of any crime and owed no tax. Although 10 years later, Taiji men was acquitted of all charges and no tax debts after 3 judicial trials, National Taxation Bureau officials ignored the court's judgment and continued to illegally persecute the group with false tax receipts, and even confiscated Taiji men's sacred land in the end. It is outrageous that both the National Taxation Bureau and the Administrative Enforcement Agency officials received. High performance case. The Taiji case.
Because we had some problems, I don't know if we can try to listen to the testimony once more and try to maybe, okay, problems may be fixed. Let's
and
see.
Statistics to an 8-year low, and the number of people on no-pay leave continued to climb. But in July, the Ministry of Finance announced that tax revenue for the first half of the year reached NTD 2,093.6 billion, a record high for the same period of the previous year. We don't understand why tax revenue can keep hitting record highs despite the poor economic performance. Where did the money come from when the government exceeded its levy of $1,330.7 billion in 7 years? From the average of more than 10 million new enforcement cases each year, it is surprising that more than one-half of the population of Taiwan is facing the prospect of having their property auctioned off for tax and fee arrears, a situation which is not too far from being called the taxpayer's hell. It is the people's obligation to pay taxes to the government to build the country, but the government should also abide by the contract with the people, not to overtax and spend money indiscriminately. However, we do not see prudent spending from the various kinds of eye-catching subsidy policies. We do not see financial discipline from the excessive special budgets, and we see a future full of flaws and potholes from the so-called forward-looking plans. So how can we let the people live in peace of mind? If the judiciary is used as a private tool, it will lose the people's trust and solidarity. If it spends money indiscriminately without observing financial discipline, it will seriously hurt the foundation of the country and make the people feel uneasy. Therefore, I can especially feel the importance of Dr. Hong, the Zhongmenren of Taiji Men, in promoting conscience. In his manifesto for the movement of an era of conscience, he mentioned that conscience leads to good governance. Only conscience-driven policies complemented by conscientious administrations can benefit and stabilize the society. In the face of the accelerating deterioration of the world's environment and the threat to peace posed by human greed, there is no time to lose in uniting the forces of goodness in the world, which is why I traveled to Chicago in August with the Taiji Men Goodwill Cultural Group to participate in the 130th anniversary of the Parliament of the World's Religions. Nearly 120 Taiji Men Daises participated in faith rallies, forums, and a rare ceremony of praying for blessings in heaven, the Faupal Peace Bell ringing ceremony, and a Qigong and martial arts cultural performance, which was recognized and appreciated by the local public and attendees. 11 important leaders from the world rang the bell during the conference. Nitin Ejmera, chairman of the board of directors of the Parliament of the World's Religions, rang the Faupal peace bell in the presence of the audience and made a wish: may the vibration of the bell resonate in our hearts to create a world full of love, compassion, and gratitude for all. Khalid Abu Awad, who was honored with the UNESCO Madanjit Singh Prize for promoting non-violence and tolerance, rang the bell and said, "I wish the whole world could be like one big family, helping each other and living in peace." I respect the fact that the United States was able to create a platform for interfaith communication and sharing 130 years ago, and I deeply feel that respect for different ideas and beliefs is the best way to learn and demonstrate freedom, democracy, and human rights. The money, time, and even physical effort spent on a journey is not easy for many Taiji men, Dizzy and me. Under Dr. Hong's teaching, We are convinced that a person's life should not only be about loving oneself, but also about working for the sake of all sentient beings, and that this is the power of love as well as faith. At the Chicago Parliament of the World's Religions, I also saw many people who seek peace of mind and love of nature express their love of the world in different ways. I truly believe that no matter what kind of work we do, no matter what role we play, as long as we can find our conscience, repent ourselves, make a wish for love and peace, and try to fulfill it, this is the solution to the world's problems. As Dr. Hong Taozu, the Zhongmenren of Taiji Men, has called for, conscience is the key to the sustainable development of mankind in the future. So may everyone have a conscience, and may the world have peace. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your important testimony. I really appreciate when you say that justice is supposed to be the last line of defense in maintaining social justice. But as the judiciary has been degraded into a tool for eliminating dissent, the people of Taiwan's trust in the judiciary goes away. Of course, this is a very serious problem in Taiwan, but it's also a problem worldwide. When people lose their faith in the judiciary, which should, of course, be should have the task of administrating justice, the last line of defense, people is gone, and this is another aspect of the discussion of today's discussion on peace. There can be no peace with no real justice. And all the webinars, all the series of webinars we are trying to promote in one way or another revolve around this idea. And your last speech with this stressing of justice kind of tie together all the papers and speeches and testimonies of today, bringing again the whole thing in face of the Taiji case, which is a major piece of injustice, meaning a major piece of unpeace in creating this world. So need to be solved as soon as possible for at least this reason, which will affect, of course, the Taiwanese society, but the whole world, because when one person suffers in the world, all the world suffers as well. With this, we concluded our second session with the testimonies of the busy, and this is the occasion for me to thank the hosts of these series of webinars, and especially today's webinars, which is CESNUR, Center for Studies on New Religion, and Human Rights Without Frontier, without whose support it will not be possible to do all this, and also the unsung heroes who are behind the scenes and impromptu are able to solve all the technical problems that we may face. Thank you so much. You don't appear in video, but you're very good, hardworking people, and you make all this possible. Without further ado, I give the virtual mic to Dr. Massimo Introvigne, founder of the Center of Studies on New Religions and editor-in-chief of Bitter Winter magazine, which I have the honor of serving as director in charge for the concluding consideration.
Thank you, Marco. And today's webinar has demonstrated through papers and testimonies that discriminating against minorities through the use of taxes is a threat to domestic and international peace. In concluding the webinar, I would like to refer to a giant, perhaps a forgotten giant in the history of international law, including international tax law, who was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his contribution to world peace. His name was Louis Renault, and it should not be confused with the industrialist, also called Louis Renault, who was the main founder of the Renault car company. The two Louis Renaults were not related. Italians, or some Italians, may know Louis Renault, the jurist, because he shared the Nobel Peace Prize of 1907 with Italian Freemason and activist Ernesto Teodoro Moneta, who, having fought with the private militia of Giuseppe Garibaldi during the war to unify Italy and witness the horror of the battles, eventually turned to radical pacifism. Renault's contributions to international law were outstanding, but when he won the Nobel Peace Prize, he had just became famous as the main author of the arbitration award in the Japanese house tax case. At that time, it was believed that the award had avoided a war between Japan and the coalition consisting of the United Kingdom, France, and Germany. As it happened to China, Japan had been imposed in the 19th century what Japanese historians call the unfair treaties with Western powers, which compelled the imperial government to sign them based on their superior military might. These treaties provided for areas in Japan where foreigners could live without being subject to Japanese laws and courts, and the legal authority was represented in these enclaves by the consuls of their countries, and opera fans know this situation from Puccini's Madame Butterfly. In a different international situation, the so-called unfair treaties signed with Japan between 1858 and 1869 were abolished in 1894. The full sovereignty on the previous foreign settlements, once under consular jurisdiction, returned to Japan. There was, however, a problem concerning those foreign individuals who, based on the unfair treaties, had purchased homes in these settlements, often spending considerable money. They could not have done so in other areas of Japan, since Japanese law at that time preventing foreigners from owning real estate in the country was in force for nationalist reasons. The 1894 treaties then stipulated that the rights of these homeowners will be preserved. Although as foreigners in Japan now, they could no longer be the owners of their homes, they kept them based on a perpetual lease from the government. And they should pay a rental to Japan, but no real estate taxes. In the 20th century, however, Japanese tax authorities started claiming that the foreign perpetual lessees of properties in the former settlements should not pay taxes on the land, but should pay taxes on the houses built on such land. The two taxes, tax on the land and tax on the buildings built on the land, were now different in Japanese tax law, and the Japanese homeowner should pay both. Apart from the unfairness of this double taxation, the foreign lessees objected that they were a different position from the Japanese who owned the home. First, as foreigners, they could not become the owners of their homes, but only the lessees. Second, they already paid a rent to Japan, that was equivalent to the taxes or higher. These lessees were thousands, and enormous economic interests were at stake. While the United States counseled its citizens to pay the tax and avoid an international crisis, Germany, France, and the United Kingdom threatened Japan with retaliation, including military. Happily, all the parties that decided to resort to international arbitration under the 1898 Convention for the Pacific Settlement of International Disputes and relied on Renault's fame of integrity, although he was appointed by the 3 European countries as their arbitrator, as a guarantee that the College of Arbitrators would render a fair decision. In the landmark 1905 ruling, Renault and the Norwegian arbitrator Gregers Gram, the former Prime Minister of Norway, with the Japanese member of the panel Ichiro Motono dissenting, decided against Japan. They concluded that when the 1894 treaties were signed, nobody had in mind the possibility of a double taxation of the land and of the buildings erected on that land, and that individual taxpayers should not suffer because of changes in international politics. Renault, in particular, with his fine legal reasoning, was credited with having avoided a war on a tax issue and awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. Unfortunately, however, Japan refused to accept the award and continued to impose tax bills. Although to avoid international retaliation, the bills were not enforced, and the foreign lessees continued to occupy their homes and to accumulate unpaid tax debt. The cases were settled only 30 years later, in 1937, but by then the tax case had poisoned Japan's international relations and contributed to the climate that will lead to the country's ill-fated involvement in World War II. This was not Renault's fault, though, and I believe the case confirms that greedy tax authorities are a threat for peace. In retrospect, while some Japanese and even Western scholars today criticize Renault's attitude as neo-colonialist, others point out that tax bureaucrats who did not see beyond their own and the Japanese tax office narrow interest prevailed upon the Japanese government and persuaded it to attack foreign taxpayers in a way that threatened international peace. This is an important lesson for the Taijimen case and one that casts a shadow on the future of Taiwan. When corrupt tax bureaucrats are not controlled by government, but prevail upon politicians to blindly follow them, the international image of a country is compromised and peace itself is in danger. May the International Day of Peace be an opportunity to meditate on the fact that there is no peace without tax justice, and there will be no peace for Taiwan without a solution of the Taijimen case. These comments conclude the webinar, and we will now see two videos launching the important events some of us will attend next month in California with the grand opening of the new Taijimen Shigun Academy in Pasadena and another one in Santa Clara as well.